Most men are taught that compliments are about appearance, how she looks, what she's wearing, how attractive she is in that moment. And while those compliments are heard, they rarely land. They float on the surface because they're expected, repeatable, and easily forgotten. What actually creates emotional impact is when a woman feels seen beyond her appearance, when you acknowledge the invisible parts of her that most people overlook. Complimenting her character shifts the entire dynamic. It tells her that you're not just reacting to what's in front of you, but paying attention to who she is underneath. Traits like integrity, resilience, empathy, self-respect, discipline, or emotional intelligence aren't immediately visible, yet they define how a person moves through the world. When you recognize those qualities, you communicate depth, and depth is rare. Rarity is what makes attraction intensify. Psychologically, people bond most strongly when their internal identity is affirmed. A woman may receive dozens of compliments about her beauty, but very few about her strength, her values, or the way she handles pressure. When you speak to those qualities, you align with how she likely sees herself or wants to be seen. That alignment creates emotional resonance. Your words don't just flatter her, they validate her inner narrative. There's also a philosophical dimension here. Appearance is temporary. Character is enduring. When your compliments focus on character, you signal long-term thinking without saying it directly. You're not chasing a moment. You're acknowledging substance. This subtly separates you from men who are only interested in surface-level attraction. And separation is powerful because attraction grows strongest in contrast. The key, however, is sincerity. Character-based compliments only work when they're grounded in observation. You can't manufacture them or recycle phrases. You have to pay attention. Notice how she treats people when there's nothing to gain. Notice how she responds under stress. Notice how she speaks about her goals, her boundaries, her values. When your compliment reflects something real, it lands with weight. This approach also removes pressure from the interaction. You're not placing her on a pedestal or objectifying her. You're acknowledging her humanity. That creates emotional safety. And emotional safety is where attraction deepens naturally. She doesn't feel evaluated. She feels understood. She doesn't feel like she has to perform. She feels accepted. Many men avoid character compliments because they fear sounding too serious or too deep too soon. But depth isn't about intensity, it's about accuracy. A simple, calm observation delivered confidently can carry more impact than an exaggerated compliment ever could. Saying something like, "I respect how you handle yourself when things get uncomfortable," communicates more than any comment about her looks because it shows awareness and maturity. Over time, these compliments begin to shape how she experiences you. She associates your presence with feeling grounded, recognized, and valued beyond the superficial. That emotional association is what causes attachment to grow quietly. She doesn't just remember what you said, she remembers how your words made her feel about herself. And that's the real power here. When your compliments elevate her self-perception rather than just her ego, you become more than attractive. You become meaningful. You're no longer one of many voices admiring her appearance. You're the one who saw her character and spoke to it with clarity. So the next time you think about complimenting a woman, pause and ask yourself what she rarely hears but deeply deserves to. Because when you speak to her character, you don't just compliment her, you connect with her. And connection is where attraction stops being casual and starts becoming real. One of the quickest ways to weaken a compliment is to make it generic. Words like "you're amazing" or "you're special" may sound positive, but they carry very little emotional weight because they could apply to almost anyone. The human mind doesn't attach meaning to vague praise, it attaches meaning to recognition. And recognition only happens when you notice what others overlook. Specific, observational compliments work because they tell a woman, "I'm paying attention," not in a surface-level way, but in a deliberate, grounded way. Psychologically, being seen accurately is one of the strongest triggers for emotional connection. When you articulate something precise about her, something that required awareness, presence, and discernment, you separate yourself from the noise. Think about the difference between saying "you're confident" and saying, "I noticed how you stayed calm and direct when that conversation got uncomfortable." The second compliment doesn't just describe a trait. It references behavior. It anchors your words in reality. And when a compliment is rooted in observable action, it becomes believable. Believability is what allows attraction to deepen rather than bounce off as flattery. This also speaks to a deeper philosophical truth, meaning lies in detail. The more specific something is, the more real it feels. Generic praise flatters the ego for a moment, but detailed recognition affirms identity. It tells her that who she is and how she moves through the world have been noticed, processed, and respected. That kind of attention is rare, and rarity creates value. Many men hesitate here because they think being specific requires saying something impressive or poetic. It doesn't. It requires presence. You can only make observational compliments when you're actually engaged in the moment instead of thinking about how you're coming across. Ironically, the less you perform, the more powerful your words become. When your compliment sounds like a simple truth rather than a rehearsed line, it lands deeper. There's also an emotional safety component. Specific compliments feel personal without being intrusive. They don't overwhelm her or put her on the spot. They simply reflect what you've noticed. This creates a sense of being understood rather than evaluated. And when a woman feels understood, her defense is lower. Attraction grows best in low-pressure environments. Another important point is restraint. Not everything you notice needs to be said immediately. Timing matters. A well-placed compliment after a shared experience or meaningful interaction carries more impact than one delivered randomly. When your words match the emotional moment, they feel aligned rather than forced. That alignment builds trust. Over time, your compliments begin to carry a reputation. She starts to associate your words with truth rather than exaggeration. When you do compliment her, she listens more closely because she knows you don't speak casually. That selectiveness increases the value of every compliment you give. This approach also strengthens your own frame. You're no longer trying to impress, you're responding to what you observe. That subtle shift moves you from approval-seeking to grounded confidence. You're not asking her to feel something, you're naming what already exists. And naming reality calmly is one of the most attractive traits a man can embody. So slow down, pay attention, notice patterns, behaviors, small moments of authenticity. Speak to those moments simply and sincerely, because when your compliments are rooted in real observation, they stop sounding like words and start feeling like recognition. And recognition, when it's rare and accurate, doesn't just attract, it stays with her long after the conversation ends. One of the most misunderstood aspects of complimenting a woman is how to speak to her femininity without shrinking her into it. Many men either avoid it entirely out of fear of sounding shallow, or they lean into it in a way that reduces her to appearance alone. Both approaches miss the point. Femininity, when acknowledged correctly, isn't about how she looks. It's about how she moves, how she feels, and how she relates to the world. True femininity expresses itself through warmth, intuition, emotional depth, grace under pressure, and the ability to create comfort in a space. When you compliment these qualities, you're not objectifying her, you're honoring an energy. Psychologically, this matters because women want to feel desired and respected. When a compliment recognizes her feminine presence without dismissing her intelligence or strength, it creates a rare balance that feels deeply attractive. The mistake many men make is isolating femininity from competence. They'll say things that imply softness equals fragility or beauty equals passivity. But real attraction grows when a woman feels that her femininity enhances her power rather than replaces it. Compliments that land well often highlight contrast, how she can be gentle and grounded, expressive and self-controlled, warm yet discerning. This tells her you see complexity rather than stereotypes. From a psychological standpoint, people are drawn to those who recognize nuance. When you acknowledge her femininity in a way that includes her autonomy and intellect, you signal emotional intelligence. You're not trying to dominate or impress, you're observing and appreciating. That energy feels safe, and safety allows desire to unfold without resistance. There's also something subtle happening here. When you compliment her feminine qualities without turning them into a performance, you give her permission to relax into herself. She doesn't feel the need to prove competence or maintain emotional armor. She feels allowed to be expressive without being diminished. That emotional permission creates a sense of intimacy that goes far beyond surface-level attraction. This doesn't require elaborate language. Simple, grounded observations are often the most powerful. Noticing how she brings calm into a room, how her intuition shapes her decisions, or how her presence softens tension, communicates far more than commenting on her appearance. These compliments tell her that her impact matters, not just her image. Philosophically, this speaks to a deeper human need, to be recognized in wholeness. When a woman feels seen as both feminine and capable, expressive and intelligent, she experiences a form of integration, and integration creates confidence. Confidence, in turn, fuels attraction, not because she feels elevated by you, but because she feels Ned within herself around you. It's also important to deliver these compliments without expectation. When you're not fishing for a reaction, your words feel sincere. The absence of neediness allows the compliment to land cleanly without pressure. She doesn't feel like she owes you anything for your words. She simply receives them. And when a compliment can be received freely, it has far more emotional impact. Over time, these moments shape how she associates your presence. You become the man who sees her fully, not selectively. The one who appreciates her femininity without trying to control it, define it, or benefit from it. That association creates trust, and trust quietly deepens attraction. So speak to her femininity, but do it with respect, awareness, and balance. Let your words acknowledge the energy she brings without reducing her to it. Because when a woman feels valued in her full complexity, she doesn't just feel complimented, she feels chosen. And being chosen for who she truly is one of the fastest ways attraction turns into something deeper. Most compliments focus on the woman herself, her traits, her qualities, her behavior. And while those matter, there is another layer that is far more emotionally potent, expressing the effect she has on you. This is where compliments stop being descriptive and start becoming connective. You're no longer just talking about who she is, you're revealing how her presence changes your internal state. And psychologically, that creates intimacy. When you tell a woman that her presence makes you feel calmer, more focused, more inspired, or more grounded, you're inviting her into your inner world. You're not placing her on a pedestal or asking for validation. You're simply naming an experience. That honesty feels personal without being heavy. It communicates trust. And trust is one of the fastest accelerators of emotional attraction. There's an important distinction here. Complimenting her effect on you is not the same as making her responsible for your emotions. The former is grounded, the latter is needy. Saying, "I like how conversations with you slow my mind down," is very different from saying, "I need you to feel okay." One expresses appreciation, the other expresses dependence. Women are acutely sensitive to this difference. Psychologically, humans are drawn to people who make them feel impactful. When a woman realizes that her presence has a meaningful influence on you, it reinforces her sense of value without burdening her. She doesn't feel obligated. She feels significant, and significance is far more attractive than praise. This kind of compliment also bypasses comparison. You're not ranking her against other women or making exaggerated claims. You're describing a subjective experience that only she creates. That exclusivity gives the compliment weight. It tells her that your connection is unique, not interchangeable. Philosophically, this taps into a deeper human desire to matter in ways that are felt, not just observed. Being admired is pleasant. Being impactful is memorable. When you articulate how she affects your emotional or mental state, you create a bond rooted in experience rather than abstraction. Timing and delivery matter here. These compliments land best when they arise naturally from a shared moment. After a meaningful conversation, a quiet walk, or a moment of laughter, a simple acknowledgement of how she made you feel can resonate deeply. There's no need for drama or intensity. Calm sincerity carries more weight than emotional excess. It's also important to remain emotionally self-contained when offering these compliments. Your tone should communicate that your life is already full, and her presence enhances it rather than completes it. This preserves polarity. She feels appreciated, not responsible, desired, not relied upon. Over time, these compliments shape how she associates herself with you. She begins to connect your presence with feeling effective, influential, and emotionally resonant. And when you're not around, that sense of influence doesn't disappear. She remembers it, she misses it, she wonders when she'll feel it again. This is why compliments about impact often linger longer than compliments about traits. Traits can be admired from a distance. Impact is felt in the body. It's remembered emotionally. And emotional memory is what drives attraction beyond logic. So the next time you consider complimenting a woman, shift your focus slightly. Instead of only telling her who she is, tell her what she does to your inner world, calmly, honestly, without expectation. Because when a woman understands the positive effect she has on you, she doesn't just feel appreciated, she feels connected. And connection, when grounded and sincere, is where attraction quietly deepens into something real, One of the most overlooked truths about compliments is that their power has less to do with the words themselves and more to do with the energy behind them. The same sentence can feel magnetic or uncomfortable depending on why it's being said. When a compliment is delivered from a place of calm confidence, it lands as appreciation. When it's delivered from a place of insecurity or expectation, it lands as pressure. Women feel this difference instantly, even if they can't articulate it. Neediness doesn't always look obvious. It can sound polite, thoughtful, even romantic, but underneath it is a subtle request. Please like me. Please respond well. Please validate this moment. And the moment a compliment carries that hidden agenda, it loses its effect. Instead of feeling admired, she feels evaluated. Instead of feeling drawn in, she feels observed under a spotlight. Calm confidence removes that pressure entirely. When you offer a compliment without needing anything back, not a smile, not reassurance, not momentum, you create emotional freedom. You're not using words to extract a reaction, you're simply expressing a truth. Psychologically, that feels clean. And clean emotional exchanges are deeply attractive. This is why delivery matters as much as content. A grounded tone, relaxed body language, and unhurried pacing communicate that you are emotionally stable. You're not rushing the moment. You're not trying to secure an outcome. You're comfortable whether the compliment is received warmly, neutrally, or quietly. That comfort signals self-trust, and self-trust is contagious. Philosophically, this comes down to sovereignty. A man who is sovereign over his emotional world doesn't outsource his worth to how others respond. He doesn't inflate himself when praised or deflate himself when ignored. When such a man gives a compliment, it feels like a gift, not a transaction, and gifts are received very differently than requests. Women are especially sensitive to this because they experience compliments constantly. Over time, they learn to detect which ones come with strings attached. The ones that stand out are delivered by men who don't need the compliment to work. Those men feel settled. Their words aren't trying to create attraction, they're expressing it. This also changes how often you compliment. When you're confident, you don't feel the urge to comment on everything. You become selective, and selectiveness increases value. When you do speak, your words carry weight because they aren't habitual. She senses that your compliments aren't automatic, they're intentional. There's also a subtle respect communicated here. You're not overwhelming her with praise or trying to win her over through vol. You're trusting her autonomy. You're allowing her to receive the compliment without feeling obligated to perform gratitude or interest. That respect builds emotional safety, and emotional safety is a prerequisite for deeper attraction. Importantly, calm confidence doesn't mean emotional distance. You can be warm, present, and expressive without being needy. The difference lies in attachment to outcome. You enjoy the interaction for what it is, not for what it might lead to. That mindset alone transforms how your compliments are felt. Over time, this becomes part of your emotional signature. Women remember how it felt to be around you, not pressured, not rushed, not subtly tested, just seen, appreciated, and left free. When your compliments come from that place, they don't just flatter, they relax, and relaxation opens the door to genuine connection. So the next time you compliment a woman, check your inner state before you choose your words. Ask yourself whether you're offering appreciation or asking for approval. Because when your compliments are grounded in calm confidence, they don't try to create attraction, they reveal it. And what's revealed without force is often what stays the longest. The most powerful compliments are not the ones that impress her. They're the ones that make her feel safe being herself. This is where many men unintentionally go wrong. They use compliments as a way to create attraction quickly, to spark chemistry, or to escalate emotionally. But when a compliment feels like a test, a hook, or a step toward an outcome, it creates pressure, and pressure is the enemy of genuine connection. Emotional safety is what allows attraction to take root quietly and deeply. When a woman feels safe, she doesn't have to guard her responses, manage your expectations, or wonder what you want next. She can simply exist in the moment. Compliments that create. These safety don't evaluate her or place her on a scale. They accept her as she is. They communicate, you don't need to perform for me. Psychologically, this is critical. The human nervous system opens in safe environments and closes in evaluative ones. When a compliment makes her feel assessed, Whether she's being ranked as attractive, interesting, or worthy, it triggers subtle self-monitoring. She becomes cautious. But when a compliment affirms her without demanding anything in return, her system relaxes. Relaxation is where authenticity lives, and authenticity is far more attractive than perfection. This is why compliments that sound seductive on the surface often fail long-term. They create intensity but not trust. Emotional safety, on the other hand, creates trust first, and desire grows naturally inside trust. A simple compliment that acknowledges her comfort, her openness, or her honesty can be more impactful than one that focuses on desirability. It tells her that she is valued, not evaluated. There's also a philosophical layer here. Attraction that's built on pressure is unstable. It relies on constant reinforcement, constant reassurance, constant performance. Attraction built on safety is self-sustaining. It doesn't need to be pushed because it isn't being resisted. When your compliments remove pressure instead of adding it, you create space for her feelings to emerge organically. This doesn't mean avoiding attraction or interest. It means expressing it without expectation, saying something that affirms her presence rather than her usefulness to you. For example, noticing how easy it feels to talk to her or how natural her energy is communicates appreciation without implying obligation. She doesn't feel like she has to respond a certain way to keep your interest. Another important element is consistency. Emotional safety isn't created by one perfectly. Worded compliment, it's created by a pattern. When your words, tone, and behavior align over time, she begins to trust that your compliments aren't tools, they're expressions. And once that trust is established, even simple words carry depth. Men often underestimate how rare this is. Many interactions leave women feeling subtly judged, subtly measured, subtly compared. A man who removes that dynamic stands out immediately, not because he's louder or more charming, but because he's calmer, more grounded, less demanding. That calm becomes attractive precisely because it's uncommon. Over time, compliments that create safety reshape how she experiences you. She associates your presence with ease, not effort, with acceptance, not anxiety. And when attraction grows in that environment, it feels stable rather than chaotic. She doesn't feel rushed into liking you. She finds herself liking you without trying. This is the paradox. The less pressure your compliments create, the more powerful they become. When a woman feels free around you, she doesn't just enjoy your words, she opens emotionally. And emotional openness is where real connection forms. So stop using compliments to move things forward. Use them to create space. Let your words lower defenses instead of raising expectations. Because when a woman feels emotionally safe with you, attraction doesn't need to be forced. It unfolds. And what unfolds naturally is always deeper, stronger, and far more likely to last.